Hi everyone, welcome to video number 3. When we left off at the end of video number 2, we were talking about how you can get into federal court, and we have diversity jurisdiction and subject matter jurisdiction. I just wanted to make that clear because we talk about how we have district courts on the state side that are trial courts, and we have the U.S. district courts, which are the federal district courts on the federal side. Okay. Both of these courts, as we mentioned, are trial courts. They are the lowest level of court. They involve a single judge who presides over the trial, and there is a jury of peers available in both the district court at the state level and the district court in the federal level. So as we mentioned, there are trial courts everywhere. I just wanted to jump and show you quickly the hierarchy for other states. I did print out, and it's listed on Blackboard. Here, for example, is the hierarchy for New Jersey. I wanted to point these out because we'll talk about the naming of the particular courts. We've already talked about Superior Court and District Court and the U.S. District Court. In New Jersey, for example, the lowest level court is called the New Jersey Trial Court. Their mid-level court is called the New Jersey Appeals Court, and then the Supreme Court of New Jersey. So we'll talk about a couple of other unique states like New York that actually has the most unique states names of all. Okay, but back to the federal and the Massachusetts. When a trial is completed, that is when a jury renders a verdict, and we're here down at that lowest level, trial court, or when a case is dismissed at an earlier stage. Not a case settling, but let's say the plaintiff's case becomes dismissed, or something we'll learn about later this semester called summary judgment. The losing party has the right to appeal. So this is how we move up those triangles. On the state side, we move from all of the trial court levels to the first appellate level, which is here, the Massachusetts Appeals Court, which is a mid-level appellate court. And then we move up here to the Supreme Judicial Court, which is the highest court in Massachusetts and the final word on matters of Massachusetts law. It was a Supreme Judicial Court opinion in 2002 in the Goodrich case that we discussed that granted same-sex couples the same right to marry based on the Supreme Judicial Court's interpretation of the Massachusetts Constitution. After this is the end of the line here for Massachusetts courts. On the federal side, we also have two levels of appeal. The U.S. Circuit Courts of Appeal, and this actually should have the word circuit in there, so I apologize that it doesn't. And then the highest level of appeals, which is the U.S. Supreme Court. I'm going to talk about these appellate courts in more detail, but I want you to see the overall structure, how we move from the trial court at the very bottom to different levels of appeal, a mid-level and then one senior appellate court, the SJC, the U.S. Supreme Court. New York has funny names. Believe it or not, their trial court is called the New York Supreme Court. Anybody who watches the original Law and Order probably knows this. And the appellate court in New York is called the New York Court of Appeals. New Hampshire, for example, and I believe Maine too, does not actually have a mid-level appellate court. You go straight from the trial court up to the Supreme Court of Maine. And that's just because it's a small population, not even as many cases. So it does differ state to state what the courts are called and how many levels of appeal, but that overall structure stays the same. Begin at the trial court, move to the appellate court. We will talk a lot more about the differences between trial and appellate courts, but I do want to make you aware at this point that when you research, we are looking at these appellate court opinions. These are the higher courts. These courts sit in review of what happened below in the trial court. These courts have the opportunity through attorneys arguing to review errors of law and mistakes that the trial court may have made. Just a really straightforward example would be in a criminal matter. If the police illegally searched someone's premises without a search warrant, for example, and confiscated contents from the defendant's home without a search warrant. And let's say the defendant moved in trial court to say, you can't bring in that evidence, that was a constitutional violation. But the trial court just said, no constitutional violation. and the evidence was allowed to be used against that defendant in a court of law, and then the defendant lost at trial court, that defendant could appeal his case to the first level of appeal and say to the judges on the appellate court that the lower court made an error of law, and for that reason, the lower court opinion should be overturned. That's just one example of how an appellate court can change the case and reverse what happened below. But here's something else really important. When you get up to the appellate level, and this is true for both levels of appeal, whether at the mid-level, the Massachusetts Appeals Court, the U.S. Circuit Courts of Appeal, or the U.S. Supreme Court, is that the type of court it is changes. It's not a trial court at all. In fact, there's no trial. You could never have a trial in an appellate court. What you have instead of the one judge that exists down here at the Superior Court, at the appellate court, there is a panel of judges. There is no jury ever at an appellate court. If you get a notice in the mail calling you for jury duty, it would never be to an appellate court because that doesn't exist. There is only a panel of judges. Also, the panel is an odd number of judges because they have to sit and review. You can't have a 2-2 decision and then say, well, I don't know, maybe there was an error of law before, maybe there wasn't, let's all go home. We need to have a situation where you have a majority or some type of odd number situation. The Massachusetts Appeals Court is an odd number. You guys can look it up to see how many justices sit at the Supreme Judicial Court. I won't tell you now. I'll have you just look that up. Find out the number of justices sitting at the Supreme Judicial Court. And I'll actually point out something interesting. If you have a chance, take a look and see how each of these judges received their appointment. They were all appointed, and really interesting to find out who appointed, I believe, every single one or most every judge at the Supreme Judicial Court. And then, of course, we have the U.S. Supreme Court. The justices at the U.S. Supreme Court get their job by being appointed by the President of the United States and confirmed by the Senate. I hope you know that there are 9 justices on the U.S. Supreme Court. And sometime I'd love to spend some time talking about the current composition of the judges, because it's making for some very interesting, perhaps, changes to what we see in our law, because the majority of justices currently on the Supreme Court were appointed by Republican presidents who lean conservative. So we may see a shift in the type of decisions that we had, let's say, just a few years ago. And of course, the death of Justice Ginsburg last year made a huge impact on the composition of the court. Okay, so here are your 2 hierarchies. Why do we go through all of this? I do want to actually make a video for you and go through the hierarchy of the actually, let me just take a quick minute and go over the federal triangle system just a little bit more. I'd actually like you to pause the video here and just take a look at this image and then come back and I will talk about it. Okay, I'm assuming you paused and read the names of the courts here. I did not list all the courts in the federal system, and that is because it would be too many for me to fit on one slide. This is just the federal system of courts. I hope you see on the bottom that I've named the U.S. District Courts, because we talked about how the U.S. District Courts are the trial courts. Now, remember we said that every single state has at least one U.S. District Court in it. So that means there's at least 50, but there's more than that because some states have more than one district court because they're populous, like New York, for example, has more than one U.S. District Court. When these cases go up on appeal, so let's say the marathon bomber case, Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, who actually does have another appeal this year in front of the U.S. Supreme Court, where does his case go? The mid-level court on the federal side is the courts I just mentioned before, the U.S. Circuit Courts. There's not a circuit court for every district court. There are 11 numbered circuits around the country, 11 of them. And actually, I don't have my book in front of me now, but there's a chart in your book that shows all 11 of them. There's also a separate circuit called the Federal Circuit, and that deals with patent cases. There's also a circuit called the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, which only hears matters from the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia. The 11 numbered circuits are organized geographically. And again, I don't have the book in front of me, so I apologize. I can't tell you exactly which graph it is, but I believe it's in Chapter 2, and there's a breakdown of the circuits around the country. There are a group of U.S. district courts in each circuit. So here's an example. All the U.S. district courts listed here, which includes Massachusetts, Maine, New Hampshire, Puerto Rico, and Rhode Island, are all in the First Circuit Court of Appeals jurisdiction. So if there is an appeal from one of the U.S. district courts here, the court it goes up to is the U.S. Circuit Court, the First Circuit Court of Appeals. Courts that are in the U.S. district courts that are in New York, Vermont, and Connecticut go up to the Second Circuit Court of Appeal. And the Third Circuit Court of Appeal includes New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. At the Fourth Circuit, don't quote me because I don't have it memorized, and you don't need to memorize it either, but the Fourth Circuit I know includes Virginia, probably North Carolina. The Ninth Circuit is well known because it includes California. The Fifth Circuit is well known because it includes Texas. The Seventh Circuit includes Illinois. The 10th Circuit includes Colorado. You don't have to have these memorized, but just understand that geographically, groups of states that have U.S. district courts in them, which they all do, go up to certain circuit courts of appeal. Take a look at how this is also organized. All of these circuit courts are also on the same level. They are equal to each other. The First Circuit, the Second Circuit, the Third Circuit, the Seventh Circuit, the 11th Circuit. These are not, one circuit's not higher than the other, but the circuit courts are higher than the district courts. So these are the trial courts, the district courts down here. The circuit courts are the appellate courts. And these are all at the same level. So all these trial courts are all at the same level. The circuit courts are all the first level of appeal. And then, of course, they all go up to the U.S. Supreme Court, which is the highest court on the federal side. So does this graph make sense? It's a lot of courts. You do not need to memorize these at all. I do want you to know the U.S. District Court for the District of Massachusetts, that's our trial court. I also want you to know that our appeal would go up to the First Circuit Court of Appeal, and then, of course, to the U.S. Supreme Court. But you don't need to memorize all the others. But I just wanted to make you aware of how the federal jurisdiction is organized. Take a look at the chapter in your book as well, the chart that breaks this down for you. So believe it or not, it's taken me almost 45 minutes to get to the point to talk about mandatory and persuasive precedent. I'm going to go on to a fourth video, but I promise it won't be as long because I actually want to spend some time in class going over this together. But I want you to take a look at it and then also take a look at the handout that I post. I will write directions on it. You do not have to complete the whole handout. It just has some exercises on jurisdiction, but I want you to take a look at it and be ready for us to go over it together in class on Tuesday. So one more video, but I promise I don't think it'll be the whole 15 minutes. And I hope these charts have been making a lot of sense to you. And I'll see you on the fourth and final video.